it's always God's perfect timing when you're asked to teach. And as a director, I think you know that. Like you've experienced being asked to train or train with your consultants, and then as you prepare, you're like, okay, I needed this lesson myself, or it was something that I needed to get quiet and think about and get clear on. And so that was definitely when Kim asked me a month ago which date would work. This really was the only Monday morning that could work, and it just so it's not even a word, just so has it that a couple weeks ago I was thinking about recruiting. I was thinking about this 25 interview challenge, some interviewing, recruiting skill training that I was doing for our area. And God made some stuff clear. And He does that. He provides strategic ideas, especially when you're about His business and you're doing His work and you're doing this business to wash faces versus feet and to be mission builders. There's a great book. I posted all the resources I think I'll talk about on here. I posted on my Facebook fan page. So you just look at my name, my Facebook fan page, but there's a book called Multiplying God's Given Potential. And in there, the author, John Bevere, nails strategic ideas and how God gives them to you because He wants you to know what you're doing. He doesn't want us wandering around having no idea. And it's not just what you teach at Sunday school that He wants you to know. He wants you to know how to parent, how to manage your finances, how to run your business, how to lead, and how to team build, how to recruit. He cares about all of this because these are all His people, and He can use all of these things for His purposes if we let Him. So I want to start off. I don't know how many of you have ever done yoga. And if you haven't, I highly recommend it. People have some really wrong concepts of it. But I love yoga because it's probably the only place that I can get to in physical exercise that my mind still isn't making my grocery list, thinking of what I need to do, who I need to talk to, what hasn't been done, because it's so physically challenging in so many different directions. I have to clear my mind, and I need that. But what I realized going back to yoga this last couple weeks, one of our family friends just opened up a local yoga studio. And so going back to doing yoga, I'm really sore. I realized that during COVID, I did yoga on video, but not in a group. And so you don't push yourself the same when you're sitting at your mat at your house and you can do Shavasana or child pose a little bit longer. Like you're not paced by the group like you are when you're in a pace setters program or an NSD Now program, etc. And so I realized going back into yoga, wow, I am out of yoga shape from doing yoga virtually. And so out of yoga shape, I could sit there and go, I can't do it. I'm not good at it anymore. It's sore. It's hard. It's all those things. But I've thought a lot, like my mind still goes sometimes when I'm laying on the mat or in a pose for a long time. And as I've been supposed to be evaluating my physical self, I'm thinking about the application in Mary Kay to recruiting. Because what I have seen in the last couple years during COVID is that first off, we were all happy that we just had products to sell, right? And then we were happy we could figure out how to sell them with a computer screen or a phone screen in front of us. Then I saw that we had to focus on not just selling stuff, because selling stuff is great for the cash right now, but it's not sustainable income unless it's based in skincare sales. So I saw us focus on that. Now I see us as a company, as a sales force. I'm seeing it clearly in my area because I see that every day, every month. But this is across the board what I'm hearing from my peers who are nationals and also from company statistics, because numbers don't lie, right? Like you take the emotion out of them and they're real clear. It's kind of like your gas gauge. You know, you can pretend that you have enough gas, but when it says empty, if you run out, like it's no one's fault but yours. So numbers are like that. They tell us the truth, whether we want to, pay attention to the truth or not. And so I'm seeing a trend that now where we've landed, okay, we figured out how to share this product. We figured out how to teach skincare. We figured out how to serve women through the product, whether you're doing it virtually or in person. Our virtual babies that started during COVID are learning it now in person. Our people who knew how to build the business in person are, learning how to do this all virtually, sharing skincare, selling skincare, but now we're both focusing on in person and virtually getting back in shape for recruiting. And so what I want to do is go through a little Mary Kay history lesson with you on recruiting. This is Dawn's version of Mary Kay history lesson, but it's for the last 36 years. It comes from a perspective of being trained by Mary Kay Ash, Daleen White, Debbie Moore, and Kathy Halou. So it's pretty solid perspective. What I encourage you to do is to listen to this first off, like just the points of it. And then I'm going to go back and tell you where we're at now. And then I'm going to give you solutions of how to fill in that gap. So I want you to think of, like, just take your notes down and have good notes on this, because this is something I'm going to ask you after we get done with this to think about and to apply and to adjust to, so that then you can pass it on. First, you're going to adjust to it, you're going to model it yourself, and then you're going to pass it on. Because what I know I tend to do as a leader is I listen to it. I'm like, oh, that's good. Immediately, I'm going to share this at my unit meeting. I'm thinking about who I'm going to share it with, who needs to hear this, who would benefit from this. I want to cut out that step until we apply it to you, because as directors and DIQs, you are our most important recruiters in Mary Kay. And so what I want to share with you first is from this book called Pass It On, that is written by Mary Kay's personal assistant. I posted that on my fan page also, but I want to read, this is in the very beginning, like page 10 of this book, because this is where recruiting started in Mary Kay. It says Mary Kay started her company with 9 saleswomen, some whom were her good friends, and called them beauty consultants. In the very early days of the company, Mary Kay personally held many of the beauty shows in the homes of her hostesses. However, when potential customers heard that she was also the president, they wondered about the company's stability. So she stepped back and concentrated on training the sales force. One of the first company goals was to recruit and train 100 quality saleswomen. These first saleswomen were to be a group so prestigious that other women would want to join Beauty by Mary Kay. Within a year, the company achieved this goal. That's where recruiting started, as per Mary Kay Ash. So, in the beginning, that's where we started. That's the first point. 2, Mary Kay taught us from the beginning that recruiting, see, in the beginning, that was just recruiting. They were selling some, but they were doing more recruiting because they needed people to launch the company. But then, as the sales force got up and running, we were taught, I was taught, like, so I'm 20 years in, if I'm 36, so the company was 24 years old when I started. At that point, we were solidly taught by Mary Kay and Daleen White, recruiting and selling were done together. You sold and you recruited together at the same time. They weren't separated activities. Third, the 4-point recruiting plan was done at every single selling appointment. 4, by the time I came in, the CAR program was in place for consultants. You had to earn a CAR before you could become a director. I went through 4 months of CAR and 4 months of DIQ. It wasn't an option. You couldn't do it faster. Everyone that wanted to be a sales director had to earn a CAR before they were a sales director. And 5, it was called the recruiting court, not the sharing court. Okay, 5 things. Now let's circle back around. So let's talk about this. One of the first company goals was to recruit and train 100 quality saleswomen. Okay, you guys. So let's think about that. Basically, Mary Kay was saying that you're a professional recruiter for Mary Kay Cosmetics, and we're looking for quality women. So, quality means different things to different people, right? I posted on my Facebook fan page what are the qualities that I'm looking for. You guys are sales directors and DIQs. You've been in long enough, even if you've in DIQ, you've been in long enough to see common traits of successful people in Mary Kay, right? I encourage you to take the time and figure out your list. My list includes things like women who believe there's a giant within them and they just haven't found that vehicle for her to come out. A woman who is a cheerleader of underdogs. But you guys, let's be clear, underdogs who are willing to be victorious, not underdogs who are choosing to be victims. They go to social workers. We find the underdogs that just haven't been given the opportunity and they're willing to do something to get something different. That's a quality I'm looking for. Is she willing to do something different to get something different? I'm so busy, but I don't have enough money to pay bills. She's unwilling, but she's unwilling to do something different to get something different. I want someone who's willing to do something different. I'm also looking for someone that, even if she is not walking out God, family, and career, like she's never seen women walk that out and talk about it in business, that she either is interested in that, that's already how she lives, or she's not contesting it. She's not saying that I don't want you to talk about that. Because that's one of Mary Kay's 3 principles that this company, Mary Kay Ash said in her autobiography, has to be protected for this company to continue on after she's gone. The golden rule: God, family, and career, and that everyone has a seed of greatness that we're called to encourage out. And so that's an important part of our culture. When I interviewed at business school and they told me at IBM, you're going to wear a dark blue suit, a white shirt, and a tie to work every day, like I couldn't say, that's not how I dress. I don't like it. I'm not going to do that. They'd say, okay, great, you're not hired or you're fired. Like in Mary Kay, people generally fire themselves if they're unwilling to embrace Mary Kay's culture. I can tell you, I had never, other than my paternal grandmother, seen someone read God's word prior to being in Mary Kay. And I'd never seen anyone, because she didn't work, she taught Sunday school and inside church walls. I had never, prior to Mary Kay, seen anyone apply God's word to their business, to their life. When Mary Kay started speaking at the first seminar that I went to a month and a half after I started, I'm like, oh, this is so interesting and so awkward, because I grew up that your faith and your business are totally separate. Your faith and your professional life, totally separate. But you guys, there was something about it. God used that to draw me to him. I wanted the confidence those women had on the stage, regardless of their Mary Kay accolades. They had a peace and a confidence that I only felt when I was successful doing whatever I was doing at that season of life. I wanted to feel like that 24/7, 7 days a week. So those are things I'm looking for. What are you looking for? What are those characteristics? Mary Kay was clear. See, being a professional recruiter is very different than throwing a whole bunch of spaghetti on the wall, seeing who comes in, and then hoping that they like our culture. Because I want to be real clear in this day and age about what our culture is and who we are. Because if who I'm talking to, whether it's in an orientation, because she's already in, or in a skincare class, or in a recruiting event, again, anytime I talk about these things, it's virtual or in person. Either way, doesn't matter. These things stay the same. I want to be real clear on who I'm looking for, because I want to know if she's part of our tribe, if she's supposed to be with us. Because if she's listening, like I listened at that first success meeting at the edge of my seat, like glued to what Debbie Moore was saying, then I know that I want to recruit her. I don't want to take her, oh, I'm too busy, or I'll have to talk to you later about it, as a reason, which is really an excuse. I'm going to recruit her. Because see, when I was in business school, because of my grades. I had people recruiting me for jobs. Like, all right, we want to talk to you and we're going to offer you this if you will come to our company and bring that discipline and that potential to our company. And that's how Mary Kay started this company. She was looking for those women who were supposed to be with us. And so being a recruiter, you guys, it's a different perspective. It's a different perspective. I want to hop down to the recruiting court versus sharing court, because I think this transition happened in that time period. See, when the company started calling it the sharing court, sharing, think about it, is far more passive than recruiting. Recruiting is intentional, it's purposeful, it's proactive. Sharing is passive. And so, and if you get results, great. If you don't, great. So in that case, we ended up with Mrs. Cab. We ended up doing a lot of marketing. You know, Mrs. Cab is not recruiting. It's not even the 4-point recruiting plan. It is sharing marketing information. And I was very alarmed when I started to hear people say, oh, I did 10 interviews this week. All 10 of my people that I facialed heard about the business. Well, share with me, how did that happen? You know, did we do the 4-point recruiting plan and then do 10 interviews with them? Oh no, I did Mrs. Cab. And no one, you know, no one was interested. No one signed up. No one said 5 on their survey. You guys, I would have never, ever been a guest at a skincare class and raised my hand and said, I want to do this. I needed to be recruited into the big picture of Mary Kay. I love the product and I love seeing women transform in front of the mirror. And I've done 1 million parties and 1 million facials, and I would do 1 million more. But that's not why I started this business. I bought into the whole opportunity, just like these women did. They bought into the whole opportunity. So the passive side led us to throwing spaghetti on the wall and then selling the starter kit. You know, the $100 kit became a set for some people. The $30 e-start was a good way just to get them in. And I'm not saying that there aren't times that you may do that when you need 2 more for your unit or 1 more for a car, but on a regular basis, that's selling the e-start or the kit versus the opportunity. That's very different. When I sell the opportunity, the kit or the e-start, which is better for you? That's what they're making a choice about. It's like we teach skincare, right? So people want to take care of their skin. They know how to take care of their skin, and then which set is best for you. With the opportunity, you're selling the opportunity, which set is best for you because they're attracted to the opportunity. The sharing versus recruiting. You guys, we at a party, your goal is to sell skincare, not a whole bunch of stuff. You're better off to sell $500 of skincare than $1,000 of stuff that's not skincare because of the reorder business that you get from it. With an interview, you are talking about to that woman about the opportunity and how, whether it's in your 4-point recruiting plan or in the interview, how this could change her life, how this has changed your life, why Mary Kay created this to change women's lives. That's a different conversation than buying a $30 e-start to get your stuff at cost and wondering why you don't have people who are stars and working their business and moving up the career path. Let's circle back around the second thing, talking about the 4-point recruiting plan. The 4-point recruiting plan was done anytime you were selling product. So that's on Zoom, that's on a Facebook Live, that's in a Facebook. People are figuring out how to do this in person and virtually. I will encourage you, one of the resources I have is audio training, but it's now on my YouTube channel. So you just go to my name on YouTube, no hyphen, and it's called Boot Camp. And one of the 6-hour trainings is on the 4-point recruiting plan. Because prior to COVID, I was alarmed when I'd go into live training events and have people raise their hand. How many people here can share with me the 4-point recruiting plan? It used to be in the back of our Mary Kay date books. Like we could repeat it like that. The 4-part recruiting plan, you talk to the hostess and ask her who would be good that's coming today, that you think that I need to know, that you think would be a good Mary Kay beauty consultant. 2, your before, now, future, crackerjack recruiting talk, whatever you want to call it, and about the Mary Kay opportunity. 3, giving them an incentive to give you referrals, $50 if you refer someone to me anywhere in the country that becomes part of my team. 4, at the individual consultation, picking out the sparklers, virtually who interacted with you, who did you make eye contact with on Zoom. In a party, it's clear who a sparkler is and who it isn't. And so pick her out after you close the sale, after you rebook her. Then you say, you know what, I pick out 1 or 2 people at every single party, and at this one, it's definitely you, and this is why, and tell her why. Mary Kay always said, everyone has a signer on the neck saying, make me feel important. And this is why. Is there any reason why you could stay 15 minutes after the party? I can give you half off on that satin lips that you really liked, but you're not getting. Or I have a gift for you. Or can we set up a coffee time tomorrow at 1 or 2? Tomorrow is not a time, an exact time, 1 or 2, before you go to work or on your way home. So we were taught to do the 4-part recruiting plan. So you were selling and recruiting at the same time, and you were picking out who you're talking to. That's very different than just doing a Mrs. Cab, seeing who answers a survey how you want to, see who responds to it. Let's go back up to that recruiting and selling were done together. So that obviously is the 4-part recruiting plan, but also let's talk about the selling piece, because this is important. Let's talk about numbers. Because in the beginning, you were taught to book 8 to hold 5 for a perfect start in 1 week. 1 week, that was your choice, whether you worked full-time or not. 1 week, book 8 parties to hold 5 in 1 week. A party had 5 to 6 people at it because a kit had 6 trays. When the company went to 4 trays to keep it under $100, which I totally understand and agree with, for some reason people thought, oh, the kit has 4 trays in it, so a party's now 3 or 4. So that made a perfect start, 15 to 20 faces versus 25 to 30 faces for a perfect start. A power start was 50 to 60 faces then. Can you see how it got watered down to 30 faces in a month as a power start? That was nowhere in Mary Kay's plan. That's not true. That's like the great-granddaughter asking her, Mom, why do we always cut the ham off the Easter ham, the end off of it? And she's like, I don't know, honey, ask your grandma. Grandma, why do we cut the end off the Easter ham? I don't know, but I know why your great-grandma did it. I don't know why you did it, but your great-grandma did it because her oven was too small. The point being, are you doing 30 faces in a month and calling it a power start because that's what you think a power start is? It's never been a power start from Mary Kay's perspective. Can you see how if you're doing 60 faces in a month, whether it's virtual or in person, and you're doing the 4-part recruiting plan with all the people, you have different recruiting numbers with 60 people than you do with 15 or 30. I mean, that's just pure numbers. So Mary Kay, she wanted us to be professional recruiters for Mary Kay. When we thanked her, when I got to spend time with her, I remember my first trip pregnant with my daughter, who's now a senior, XT6 future trip Scotland $1 million director. That was my first trip walking to London with Mary Kay and just blubbering my thank you to her for everything it had brought into my life up until that point. I wish I could talk to her again now. And she listened to me graciously as we're walking arm in arm up to Windsor Castle. And after I got done blubbering and crying, she just turned around, looked me in the eye, took my hand with both of her hands and looked me in the eye and said, pass it on. Honey, pass it on. That's exactly what she'd be telling you right now. I guarantee it. So Mary Kay numbers, check. We're doing the 4-part recruiting plan, check. The car was earned first and then a unit. That made sure that a director took personal responsibility for recruiting. And she made the most money. She wasn't recruiting 5 and getting 3 red jackets in her DIQ as her DIQ plan. She was getting them all herself because she had to for her car, So she then, for her unit, was willing to do that, and Red Jackets could organically grow versus turning around and growing someone into a Red Jacket that can't maintain it or is getting 3 225s. And again, I understand why that happens occasionally, but it's not a strategic business plan for sustainability in Mary Kay. It doesn't take you back to lining yourself up with Mary Kay Ash's business plan. Those of you who are Christ followers, you know that our transformation comes daily from lining ourselves up to his word. In Mary Kay, our transformation professionally comes from lining ourselves up with Mary Kay's marketing plan, Mary Kay Ash's marketing plan. You guys, the company with the sharing versus recruiting and the, making their 4 trays instead of 6. You guys, it's not, this isn't the, that's the company's responsibility. They do what they feel like they need to do to keep this company running financially. But our responsibility is to do it the Mary Kay way. Mary Kay set it up that way. Daleen White, I mean, she was clear on it. This is your responsibility out in the sales force. This is our responsibility. That I don't care if it's called the sharing court, it's the recruiting court in my area. And my number one director is not the one with the most unit production, it's the most qualified recruits. That's number one, because that's an even playing field. It has nothing to do with unit size. It has to do with her taking the personal responsibility to pass it on. So let's think about what we need to do with this information. And I encourage you guys to go back through that list. And where have you slid away from that? Because we all have. We've all slid away from this prior to COVID. And COVID was like a blank screen. Like, okay, it's a blank screen. Now what do we do? And we were in survival mode to start with, but we're no longer in survival mode. Actually, we have landed once again in the right place at the right time. There are more women looking for what Mary Kay has to offer now than in my 36 years in Mary Kay Cosmetics. Between the great reassessment, great reevaluation, great resignation, whatever the marketing term is, there's millions of millions of millions of women. And the number one thing they're looking for is culture. They want a quality of life. And you know what, right now, a lot of people need cash with the highest inflation we've ever had in the United States of America. You guys, it's a perfect storm for you to be offering this opportunity and to find the women who are in our tribe. And they're at every single appointment. You know, we grew to this point, again, separating recruiting from selling. People would do their appointment, and then they would leave their appointment and invite the person to the next event that their director was doing, whether it was at a studio, a Mary Kay meeting, now a virtual event. And then the director did all the recruiting. Mary Kay never intended that. I never did that. I had 2 recruits when I was with Debbie Moore for 2 weeks in Ohio. After that, all of my recruiting was done through a skincare class for 2 years. That's where I did Queen's Court of Sales and earned my car, and then went into DIQ, and my husband was transferred across the country to another place without a director in that town. And so literally my unit was built without a success meeting. I still remember gathering my unit up saying, you know, congratulations, we made it. And now there's this thing called a weekly success meeting that we're going to start to do. I look back and I thought that was a deficit. I felt like Debbie's people up in Ohio, they have this great advantage. They have these great meetings to go to with her, and then Kathy over in Toledo. And, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? But God knows what he's doing. I am real clear that I love that I then could create success meetings, that recruiting could happen, but you don't have to have it. You can do this business all virtually and do the 4-point recruiting plan. You can do it all in person and do the 4-point recruiting plan. Brand new consultants can team build and become Red Jackets and go on target for car without their director doing any of that for them. You guys, you know, we also got to a point in time that we enabled our sales force. These are grown women. They've gotten human beings out of their body and they've kept them alive. They've done way harder things than build Mary Kay businesses. We became very enabling pre-COVID. And so I encourage you, read Mary Kay's autobiography again, Mary Kay and People Management, this Pass It On book, and listen to how unenabling the pioneers of Mary Kay were. They were not enablers. Just like as a Christ follower, Jesus was not an enabler in any way, shape, or form. I love watching The Chosen because I get to see him as a real live person. But I hope that after you reevaluate this, that you'll acknowledge and you're uncomfortable with the fact that you're not doing enough numbers and maybe have to tweak some pieces of your intentionality, your 4-point recruiting skills, recruiting and selling together, first for yourself in person. And then you start to recruit people that way they naturally duplicate what you've done, what they've showed you. And in the meantime, then you see who from your current Salesforce unit is willing to jump on board with this. You know, Mary Kay used to teach us 5 new unit recruits between yourself and them, your unit's on life support in a month. 10, you're in maintenance mode. 20, you're in growth mode. You guys, this is Mary Kay's math. But think about the perfect start, power start math. This is that math. 20 to 25 new recruits a month is trip, 30 to 40 is million. Okay. I think it's been helpful for me during this whole COVID transition and now at this point in evaluating recruiting that to acknowledge that more has stayed the same than changed. That boot camp series that I did 15 years ago is talking about in person, but it is as valuable now as it was back then. And this conversation with recruiting, I'm having in coaching calls with consultants, I'm having it in training and coaching calls with directors, because we're at that point right now where we have to reevaluate, are we really recruiting the Mary Kay way? Or have we become like every other direct selling company that is selling personal use and hoping that we get people to buy into our opportunity and to share the product and the opportunity at the same time? You know, I think we kind of slid down that slippery slope. So now it's time to say, oh, nope, that's not working for us, because I bet your numbers are not that. They're not 10 for maintenance or they're not 20 for growth. If they are, awesome. But you're the exception versus the rule right now in this time in Mary Kay. More has stayed the same than changed. Resources, my YouTube channel I shared with you. The boot camp series and the recruiting series. I keep referring people to the boot camp series has the 4-point recruiting plan. The recruiting series has the interview, overcoming objections, and explaining inventory options. Brand new consultants can listen to that. It's part of our business. It's not top secret. It's a skill. I did all my interviews and all my inventory conversations, except for those 2 in Cleveland. From then on in my Mary Kay career, 2 weeks after I left Cleveland, I did them all on my own, all. And I didn't have anyone to Vox. I didn't have the internet. We didn't even have email. I didn't even have Debbie Moore that I could call until after, 9 o'clock at night, her time. So across the country, I went to the consultant's guide. I believed in this opportunity because I loved it. I believed in the product, so I sold skincare. I figured out how to get leads in a city where 90% didn't speak any English. I needed the money to pay bills because I treated this like a business from the very beginning. And you guys, the business works. So line yourself up, just like yoga. You guys, honestly, I'm so sore today after the last couple of yoga sessions, way out of yoga shape. And some of you are way out of recruiting shape. Acknowledge that it's going to be awkward. Acknowledge that it's going to be kind of painful and it's going to be inconvenient, because it will be. But as long as it's worth it, the benefits that I get in the aging process and offsetting it is worth being uncomfortable. Are the benefits of lining your recruiting skills and practice up? In yoga, they always talk about a practice. You come to the mat with your own body, and it's different all the time. And there's sometimes that you may just want to do child's pose and shavasana, lay on the mat, and that's fine. But then there's other times you're just like, okay, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it a little bit more. So what's a little bit more right now? You know, we've been working on, in my area, a 25 interview challenge for directors in a week. And I want to throw that out here, whoever's listening to this now or whenever you're listening to it, that right now it's Monday morning. So between now and next Monday night, so you get actually an extra day, 24 hours in there. And that allows you to take all Sunday off if you choose to. You have 7 solid days to get 25 interviews, real live interviews. And you guys know with who, the characteristics that you want. Those are the hostesses you pick, right? Because we talked about you got to be in front of more people to do more interviews. So you pick hostesses with those characteristics that you want to recruit, because birds of a feather flock together. And the people you work with in your unit meet those characteristics too, because birds of a feather flock together. And even if they don't want to move up the career path, they're going to benefit from a recruiting check, but you're growing your unit 25 interviews at a time. And if that's too hard, and I get that. I remember my first Ashtanga yoga class 15 years ago. And I remember sitting in the back of the room, all glass windows. So the women, I knew the instructor, but I didn't know the people there. They saw me drive up on my pink Escalade. I walk in there, I'm in the back of the room, like, I love yoga. This is going to be great. You guys, they all look like they were in Cirque du Soleil. They were like gymnasts when they were younger, for sure. Like they're doing headstands and their legs are bending at these weird angles. And I'm like, oh, no, this is not a goal of mine, but my body never has been able to do that, never will be able to do with it, and I'm fine with it. I wanted to walk out of that room, whereas you may want to say, I want to turn this off and I don't even want to listen to her because it's hard stuff. But what I talked myself through in that class is, first off, that's going to be embarrassing. They're going to see me walk out of the room, get in my pink Escalade and drive off. That's embarrassing. I can't really do it incognito in this big, gigantic pink car. But also I'm like, I'm just going to do what I can. And not like what I have been, like I'm going to push myself. And because I was in that group, I worked harder than I would have been on my own, harder than I did prior to it. Ashtanga still isn't my favorite practice. I'll pick other practices, but you guys don't be an all or nothing. Don't be that girl that doesn't start a Mary Kay business because I'm not doing it till I can do 150%. You're just like, you're never going to do it. It's never going to happen. Perfectionism is not an asset. Let's not hold on to that, not wear it as a badge of honor, because it is not. God wants you to get to the point where you are not enough. And so that is far less than perfect. And so what is it? 25 interviews with your kicked up number of faces between now and Monday in the next 7 days, 7 plus 1, 24-hour time period. Or maybe you do half of that, 12.5. Maybe you have people in your unit to work with. Maybe you don't. All of you can do 12.5 yourself. You can find the customers to talk to. You can find women that meet your characteristics and say, I need help. I'm in a training program to learn how to be better at sharing this opportunity. Will you help me out? Will you give me, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of your time? I'll give you blank. Half off. If people use repair, half off on a serum, that's like $35 for her hour or half an hour. That's a lot of savings. That could fill up maybe a quarter of her gas tank or a half of her gas tank. That's a lot. People are looking for savings right now. So which is it going to be? Your 25, your 12.5 with your unit or without? I've rebuilt my unit so many times. Some of you are going, I don't have anyone recruiting. Awesome. Put yourself back into DIQ. As a DIQ, you went from 10 to 30. Get those 20 people. Go and pretend like you're in DIQ right now, the middle of this month. And by the time the seminar year ends, you have a new unit. Or our last 2 directors have finished DIQ in a month. The 2 prior to that did it in 5 weeks. So you can do that right now. It could be by the end of May, by the beginning of June. You have a whole new unit within a unit. You guys think about this. I hope you get excited about this. All these women out there that want what Mary Kay has to offer, and you now knowing how to do virtual and in person, so you can get in front of so many more people all over the country for far less money in far less time around all different seasons of life or seasons on the calendar. And you start practicing now, you're going to be in such great recruiting shape when the new seminar year starts. It's going to help you finish this seminar year stronger. It's going to help your area get to where your diamond circle, inner circle faster. And it's going to set you all up for being the recruiters that Mary Kay counted on us to be. You guys, we are in the great exchange zone right now. These batons of leadership need to be passed, and you're her. You're it. Ask him, why did you put me in this business right now? It's not just to sell a whole bunch of product. It's to use this product as a vehicle to connect with the women who are to carry the batons on into the next generation. You guys, thank you. Please pass it on.